Welcome to We Are Montgomery Township, the podcast where we keep you informed and engaged about what's happening in Montgomery Township in Montgomery County.
So welcome back to We Are Montgomery Township. I'm Carolyn McCreary, Township Manager, and with me today is Greg Reiff, our Director of Public Works. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to talk briefly about Public Works operations, some of your projects. But to start it off, tell us about your time here at the Township, how you started, what roles you've had before you assumed the position you have now.
So I started in 2000. I came as a laborer and then moved up to crew tech. And then from there, I went up to park foreman. And then I was there for a number of years and then took the opportunity and became the Public Works Director back in 2021.
Going off script a little bit, as Public Works Director, what's been your biggest challenges? What didn't you expect? What has really sort of changed maybe the way you look at, running an organization versus being part of it?
So I'm going to say one of the biggest challenges we've had has been finding qualified candidates for employees. And I'm also going to throw out there different contractors and just the availability of our assets, like our trucks, finding the contractors that are working for us, basically just having a timely manner, doing the good work. And it seems like since COVID, things have really changed. The vehicle retention has really been difficult, I'm going to say right after COVID. And it is getting better now, but there still are challenges with all of that as well.
So let's talk about the department then. For those of you who maybe don't know about what Public Works entails, talk about the departments, how it's broken down and the typical kind of work that they're doing.
So Public Works is broken down into three different departments. We have the road crew, we have the park crew, and we also have facilities. So the road crew, they have many different responsibilities, I'm going to say. They're out in traffic every day, which again, that is one of our biggest challenges. I will say the motoring public has become less tolerant of, I'm going to say, any type of setbacks or delays or anything.
Or interruptions.
Yeah, correct. Especially since, again, COVID. I don't want to keep going back to COVID, but that's really created a lot of challenges for us. So the road crew is responsible for basically anything on the roads, township roads. So there are county roads, we have state roads, and we also have municipal roads. We're responsible for our municipal roads.
How many miles of municipal roads do we have roughly?
Almost 74 miles of municipal roads that we're responsible for. On those roads with our projects, we're responsible for any of the inlet repairs that go along with any inlets that are failing. We also have to prepare everything for our paving projects. Any pipe repair, any stormwater, we're responsible for all of our stormwater, sewer pipes. We have to go out, we check those on a regular basis. We televise those lines to see where we're going to have failures. Our infrastructure is aging, so that is one of the biggest things I'm going to say that we are faced with right now is pipe repair. Unfortunately, back in the day, they used to use the metal corrugated pipe, and that has a certain life to it, and it's coming to the end of the life. So there's going to be a lot of projects coming up that will be pipe related in various developments, and we try to get in there prior to the paving projects.
So you mentioned one of the challenges that you've had has been finding qualified employees, because since you've been director, even since I've been here, we've had a number of retirements. We've been talking about this for years that, there's a generation that's moving forward, that's getting ready to retire, and we've seen it in our own department. Talk about what it's like bringing younger employees in and teaching the next generation.
So I'm going to say our age range goes from 19 years old to 67 years old. Everybody works together very well, and everybody brings something to the table. We've been fortunate finding qualified applicants here at the township that I'm going to say everybody brings something to the table. And with the wide array of things that we do, even if it's not in our wheelhouse, somebody has some experience in that, so that we can kind of find our way and get the best possible outcome for different projects, even if it's unexpected. The guys are willing to tackle anything, which really that's one of our biggest challenges. And honestly, one of the biggest things like that we look for when we're hiring sometimes isn't always the skill set, but it's the attitude and the mindset of the candidate that comes in, because I feel like you can teach anybody anything that we do as long as they have the right attitude and the mentality. That's one of the biggest challenges. So sometimes it might take us a little bit longer to hire in our process because we are looking at it that way, and it has to be that fit. It might sound like we have a lot of employees at 21, but for the amount of work that we do, it really isn't. I'm going to say we're kind of not on a shoestring side of things, keeping it tight, but we really are.
I just think it's the level of expectations that people have that, it's not like you're just sitting around waiting for a project to come up. There's always something in the pipeline. And I feel like in the past, our residential developments were newer. So all that infrastructure was new. We didn't have as many parks. We didn't have as many, signalized intersections and all of that. It's great to have it. And it's great to be, an urbanized suburb of Philadelphia, but with it comes, unique challenges and a constant cycle of work that has to be done. I feel like no sooner we're finishing one thing, there's something else that's in the pipeline, either because, there's been, like you said, a stormwater pipe that collapsed that now all of a sudden we have to turn our attention to a neighborhood that maybe wasn't on the radar, or we've had a traffic signal continuing to give us problems, or, there's a bathroom's not functioning right in one of the parks. So all of that, I think, we bring amenities in and they're great, but once you put them in, there's a level of expectation that you're going to maintain them to a very high standard.
Yes, that's actually very accurate. The biggest thing is managing expectations. That's probably one of our biggest jobs. It really is, to be honest. That's one of the biggest jobs. And again, I hate going back to COVID, but it seems like since COVID, expectations have gotten more demanding as far as just what everybody, again, expects to see within the parks, within the roads, within all of our traffic signals. Our infrastructure is aging, and we've been tasked to take care of that. And that's something we take very seriously. We're responsible with doing that. And it's a vast undertaking. It really is.
Let's switch gears a little bit. One of the things when you mentioned about bringing people in, because I believe that you hire for attitude, you can train for skill. You just can. You've had a couple past projects that I know the department's proud of. One of the things that I love most about Public Works is how your staff always wants to take something on. They would much rather do hands-on because they do it the Montgomery way, which in their mind is a higher standard. But then they walk away, they learn from it. They see the culmination of their work in a completed project, and they know they've also saved the township money. So I wanted to talk about Autumn Woods first, because that was my first real sort of front row view of your department, under the direction of your foreman at the time, taking on something and, using some really creative means while they were out there working on it.
Yeah, so Scott Stutzman did an excellent job with that project. So over at Autumn Woods, we repaved the whole walking path, but it wasn't just repaving the path. We had to fix up some of our stormwater issues that were going on over there. There was something left from the farm that was there originally. I don't know if it was a silo or something to that effect. And there was a bunch of old stones. So he took those stones, he built an end wall because it was from the area. So along with the paving, there was all these little details that went along with it that people might not understand that it was part of the project and why we may have used some of the stuff that we did. It was because it came from the area. It was a huge undertaking, and the guys were they were all over it. They take a lot of pride in the jobs that they do and the finished product that's turned out. So that was a big project for us. That was one of the first ones that we had kind of taken on since I was in charge.
So I saw like some real innovation there, taking these stones that could have just been left there and, actually working it into our stormwater management project. Switching gears to our traffic garden at Spring Valley Park. I saw where, not just innovation, because they said, we can do this. They assured me, let us do this. And I was like, fine. Like, I trust them implicitly that way. But I also saw an opportunity for our younger employees who aren't experienced to get involved. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was another great project for us. We did that from start to finish, from the planning. Again, Scott did an amazing job with that. He took it on, took the project, ran with it. The guys, again, were just excited to do that. And as Carolyn said, it was great because some of the younger guys haven't had the experience running the paver that we have, laying out some of the lines and just doing a project of this magnitude from start to finish. They may have been in on pieces of other things, but they did this whole thing start to finish all in-house. So anytime we can showcase our skills, we really appreciate that opportunity to do that. And again, the guys just knocked it out of the park. They really did. They did a fantastic job. And it includes all of the crews. Like, all of our crews have the same mindset. Anything that we can do in-house, we take pride and ownership of that, and we try to do as much in-house.
So let's talk about projects that are currently going on that are public works related, not necessarily by our staff, because we obviously have to contract out certain work because we don't have the means to have the equipment necessary to do major road paving projects or to do the concrete projects throughout the township. So what's going on this summer?
So we just completed our curb and ramp program. We get 1 year ahead of our paving projects. So we have our paving projects. We pave our roads anywhere from 15 to 20 years. We lay that out. And again, sometimes the roads will get changed around a little bit depending on the severity and where things need to be juggled around, sometimes due to budget or just due to the size of the project. So the curb and ramp project just got completed. So those roads that they were working on, or the developments that they were working in, are for the road projects for next year. We try to stay a year ahead. That way we don't have contractors kind of tripping over each other, doing the same jobs, working in the same areas. I'm going to say we have a fairly aggressive program, and that's why our roads are in such good shape. We also have Whistle Stop Park that's going to be going on this year, at least started this year. That's a big project for us over at Whistle Stop Park. That's going to be a complete makeover, basically.
That's a good way to put it, because there will be a walking trail. There's going to be outdoor pickleball courts, which are going to be dedicated pickleball courts, not mixed use.
New tot lot
with the poured surface underneath. It's going to be fenced. The goal there is to, so that children of all abilities can play, with their siblings, with their friends, not be isolated to like a separate piece of equipment off to the side somewhere. The fencing obviously is being done because we've talked about this extensively. Children tend to run, and so we want to make sure that they can play safely and be in an enclosed environment. That we're also rehabbing the softball field because, believe it or not, there's still people who go out and do have pickup games and softball leagues, and so that field is getting used. And of course, a walking trail around it and all the ADA accessibility that's required. But there's also stormwater issues over there, and it's a big lift. If we had to do it, it would just not be within our wheelhouse to take something like that on. So there's times where we have to put bids out.
And luckily, we've been fortunate enough to get some grants to help us with that. That's a huge part of it. If we had to foot the whole bill, it would be a project that would either be put off or not done, for lack of better words, just because of the cost that's associated with it. So along with that, we have Rose Twig tennis courts. We're getting a stone dust overlay, which basically they're repaving those tennis courts. We had cracking on the courts. Again, this goes back to our maintenance discussion and just the carrying cost of everything that we have here within the township. And again, with all the tennis courts that we have, we've done this process on many of our other courts. It's held up very well, and it saves the township a lot of money from having to totally replace everything. So this is a process that we found that was cost effective, and it still gave us an excellent end product. We have stormwater pipe replacement. There's a big job that's going to be coming up over in the Canterbury development. Again, as our infrastructure is aging, this was one of the areas that we've identified, since we have the pipe camera, that we can go out, televise our lines, and see where our issues are, which again, that we spend a lot of time on televising our pipes. We also have a basin upgrade over on Enclave Boulevard that's going to have to be upgraded or updated to meet our MS4 compliance. We also have traffic signal upgrades over at 309 in English Village. That's a big project. That's one that we know we needed to get taken care of. And I think that's really going to help out with some of the traffic exiting both of the shopping centers onto 309. And that is going to be a shared project along with Horsham, since it's a shared intersection.
And we also got a grant for it, which is great.
We got a grant for that. And we also have our rapid flashing beacon that should be finishing up probably within the next week or two over on Stump Road. Again, we received a grant for that. So the grants, I can't even begin to tell you how much they really help out municipalities if they're fortunate enough to get them and have the staff to actually apply for them and receive them. So we are very fortunate that way.
So let's talk about, you have a blueprint in your mind, obviously. You have a plan. You know things that are going to need to be done. You don't know exactly when. Obviously, budget is a consideration. So you have helped extensively with developing the township's first capital investment plan. So can you talk a little bit about what went into that from your perspective?
It's not just me. I'm going to say it's the whole team. It's a team approach on all of this. It's the same everything with Public Works. It is a total team approach. We meet with the foreman. We talk about some of the needs that are going to be coming up, some of the challenges that they've seen or have faced on the roads, within the parks, with any of our traffic signals. Again, with the traffic signal stuff, there was a lot of things that needed to be updated. And again, we've been just very fortunate. And luckily, we have the staff that has the knowledge and knows what they're looking at, what to look for, and how to plan things out so that it's not hitting us all in 1 year. Yeah, we always get, I'm going to say, things thrown at us unexpectedly, but that's the nature of the job, and that's just the way it goes. But the biggest thing is having the staff and actually sitting down, looking at everything, and just coming up with that plan of what's a good time to do everything, what's the useful life of everything, from vehicles down to, like I said, down to our roads, our parks, and our traffic signals, and just, being able to look at everything from that mile high view, but then also diving into it and taking a detailed look at things and moving things around as needed. That's one of the biggest things in this job. I'm going to say with all of Public Works and with me, you have to be able to pivot. Just because you start out doing one thing or thinking one thing, it can always change. So you always have to be able to pivot and just kind of run with it and do what you need to do.
What are some of the challenges that you're facing from your perspective, operations wise? And
I'm going to say probably getting some of our equipment. Again, that is getting better. The retention of our employees has been very good. We really don't have a big turnover. The majority of it has been retirements. So for us, it's just keeping that staff, the staff that we need in Public Works, is probably, just looking at it going forward, it's going to be one of our bigger challenges. Less people are going into the trades, so that's going to be a challenge coming up. So for us, I'm going to say staffing is always going to probably be at the top of the list. Again, we have been very fortunate with getting well-rounded, skilled employees.
well, and I think the other thing too is that this township is always committed to professional development, whether it's,
Correct.
hands-on training, having somebody come in and, show people how to use a piece of equipment, or, going into like almost like a classroom setting and learning about, working as a team, or learning about, things that they need to know, as they continue on in their time here with the township. I think that's really important because, it's one thing to drop someone in and teach them, but you're also all busy. Learning by doing is great, but sometimes you need to have somebody else come in, that's what they're trained for, to say, okay, I'm going to teach, we're going to send you to learn to be a welder, or because like you said, a lot of things that were inherent to people of past generations, because maybe their dads taught them, or their grandfathers, or, they went to tech school. It's not necessarily there now. So we have to fill that void.
Yeah, and luckily we have the people to train some of those employees. Again, there are some voids that, we know we have to fill those voids. And as you said, as some of the people have retired, the skill set that they've had has been phenomenal. And we've been very fortunate to have them and have them able to teach some of the younger ones. So that for us, we've been very fortunate with that.
So my final thought, and I had this driving in this morning, we're recording this on July 1st. We're about to go into some of the hottest days on record the next couple of days. Let's talk snow.
Yep.
So, just for people who, might need to cool off a little, even in their mind, let's talk about what the challenges are. Like from the beginning, they're calling for, weather has become a news item now. We get the alerts from, the county, the National Weather Service, there's going to be, let's say, challenging weather approaching. So what are you doing over in your area first?
So first, everybody is a meteorologist. Everybody gives you a different forecast of when it's coming, what's coming. So that in itself is a undertaking all in itself. We watch the forecasts, several different forecasts, and we try to formulate our plan to the forecast. Our biggest thing, or my biggest thing, is getting our employees here safely. So we want to make sure we're here before everything starts. So we're not scrambling to get here. We don't want to be reactive. So we try to have everybody here in a timely manner so that we're able to start when whatever comes at us, we're ready to go, whether it's sleet, ice, the snow, or generally a mix of all three. So for us, it's about coming up with that timeline of when we think it's going to hit. We split our crew into half when it's just going to be a salting event. So half the guys will come in whatever time we decide, when we think that's going to be the right time. And then the other crew is on call the next time out. If it's going to lead into a plowable event, we basically bring them in a little bit later, but not much, because we don't want them traveling when the roads are really bad as well. So our biggest thing is safety for our employees and also for the motoring public. we have several different, our township's broken up into different sections. We have our snow emergency routes, which generally are the main roads, along with our school bus routes. And we try to hit those first, especially if school's in. Generally, which again, this is subject to change a little bit. We used to plow for 3 inches of snow or more is when the plows would go on. Now temperatures play a huge part of that. It depends on what we're calling or what's being called for within the next day or so. That always dictates what we're going to do and how we prepare for that storm. But basically, we have the trucks loaded with salt. We're ready to go.
One of the challenges I know, which I didn't know originally, was that salt only works in certain temperatures.
Correct. Salt will basically only work down to like 20 degrees and above. You might get a little bit below that depending on like the conditions. Like if you have sun, the sun basically helps us out with a lot of that. The only thing is, with the sun coming out and the salt melting it, when the temperatures drop overnight, then you get the refreeze. So again, with the guys being on call, we come in for the plowables, we come in for the salting event, and the guys are going to be back on call for salting for the refreeze, which that happens a lot. I'm going to say it takes us anywhere from 8 to 12 hours after the storm is done for us to do our final push. So we push everything back curb to curb. We've received a lot of questions on why we have to push back curb to curb. People get upset when we plow their driveways in. Again, it's understood. We understand it's not optimum, but again, we don't have a choice in that. You have to have it back that far for emergency vehicles, for the water to get to the inlets, for the melting, and also for the post office so people can get their mail.
Or if we get more snow.
Correct. We also...
Anybody who's ever shoveled snow, not thinking about the next large event that's coming, usually regrets that they shoveled it so close, because now they've got to throw over a pile to do it. And as far as driveways, all of us who come in for snow events go home, we have to clear out our driveways before we come in, and we go home and we find them closed up again. So I empathize when we get those calls, but I also remind people that we're dealing with the same thing. Likewise, we have to clear our own sidewalks. The township is responsible for its sidewalks. So your staff is done plowing, they get some rest, and then they have to go out and take care of we have a lot of sidewalks.
We have we have a little over 20 miles of sidewalk. So once we get done plowing, we have to drop all of our plows in order to get the majority of our trucks back inside. Last year was a huge challenge for us with the trucks freezing. Anything that was left outside with the cold temperatures, yes, salt will freeze. We found that out many times. So we were just trying to keep as much of our equipment, our trucks inside as possible, just to keep them from freezing, because we had a lot of issues with that. Last year, the temperatures were extremely cold, as everybody's aware, and that creates challenges for us all in itself. You're not going to get the melt off of the roads like what you expect. Normally, once you start hitting, I'm going to say later in the winter, like even into March, everything melts off pretty quick. But this year, from when the snow started until, I'm going to say, well into March, it never really warmed up enough for us to get like a very good melt. So some of our roads, when people were calling and saying that we didn't plow the roads, that wasn't an accurate statement. One of the issues and one of the biggest challenges we have, people snow blowing everything back into the roadway after we've come through, we've done our final pushback. They go out, do their sidewalks, and then they're blowing everything out into the road. That for us, it's deflating. We were just out for so many hours to maintain these roads, and then to have it all back out there, and they're like, well, you can just come back. We don't always have that time. The guys need to get some downtime, and sometimes the downtime is very little, just because we're back in, we have to go out and resalt. If we have drift areas, which we do have drift areas, even though we're a municipality, we don't have a lot of rural roads, but we still have areas that drift. So we have to have guys out taking care of that as well. So wintertime is a very big challenge for us. And like I said, everybody's a meteorologist, and it's always easier to sit home and say, well, why didn't you? But we don't always have that option. So,
well, fortunately, it's July, so we don't have to talk about it for a while. But I wanted to close with that because I think it's important that people understand, just our role and everything. And, we take it seriously. We have a plan when we go out there, and Mother Nature is always the big question mark for us in any weather event. So,
yeah. And again, we have a lot of cul-de-sacs in our township, which again, they're a challenge in themselves. And one of our bigger challenges as well is, people putting stuff out into the roadway. So especially in the wintertime, that creates a challenge for us with the snow plowing, especially the trash cans and everything out in the roadway. So that's something for people to keep in mind as well. Just, going into a storm, just keep it behind the curb line. That will help us out a lot.
Well, we're going to close it, and I want to thank you for your time, and please relay my thanks to the staff for everything that they do.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Montgomery Township podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow Montgomery Township on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at MontTWP. Our display name is Montgomery Township, PA. Until next time, we are Montgomery Township.